Hi, everyone. I'm very happy today to invite four amazing speakers today to come to this panel to really talk about, in general, about blockchain, but decentralized identity, open money, and really what is the next infrastructure that can enable all these innovations. My name is Stephen. I wouldn't say too much about myself, but I wanted to really have a fun and conversational 30 minutes with my guests. I wish we started off like by singing and chanting just so that to have the, not on the stage, but like the connection with each of you. I just want to say that I am the CEO and founder of the project called Harmony Protocol. I'm here today as moderator, really to really understand some of these amazing speakers today, what they think about some of the blockchain innovation still happening. Maybe I'll really let them speak instead of me introducing them. I would like to ask Daniela to start, if it's okay.
Great. I'm Denelle Dixon. I'm the CEO of the Stellar Development Foundation. We are a foundation that shepherds the code base of the Stellar Network, which is an open, decentralized network that's focused on really becoming the internet for payments and really focused on cross-border payments.
Yeah, welcome, and very honored to be hearing you speaking more about Stellar, but also like payment innovation in general. It's amazing how Stellar Development Foundation really enable many of the innovation, especially in Bay Area. As a matter of fact, one of my good friends, Andrea Lowe, just joined the foundation to bootstrap the ecosystem. I would love to hear more about some of the development there. Next, maybe Melt can tell us more about Coinshare.
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry you have my avatar today and my voice and not me in person. I'm excited to be here. I'm with Coinshares. We are a global investment firm focused on the digital currency space. And in particular on today's panel, I'll be talking about our venture investing activities. I've been investing in this space for the last 6 years now, have invested in over 200 companies over those 6 years, and have spent a lot of time working with startups, entrepreneurs, regulators, corporations, non-government organizations, and everyone in between. So I'm excited to be on this panel. Thanks for having me, Stephen.
Oh, absolutely. I've been your biggest Twitter follower, but also the fact that you really work with coming from the academic of MIT and understanding what are many of the innovation, even before become a chief strategy officer of a fund, is so critical that you help putting us on CNBC to talk about the entire industry. I would love the other speaker to talk about the interaction among each other. Just want to make sure that we can have a little bit more context about our conversation. Maybe Bradley can say a little bit more about Unstoppable.
Sure. So thanks for having me. Unstoppable Domains is building domains on blockchains. So we are kind of like a GoDaddy for the blockchain. You can go to unstoppabledomains.com and search for and buy blockchain domains. The difference between a blockchain domain and a traditional one is blockchain domains are assets on a blockchain. So we have a suite of smart contracts that we've launched. We've built 2 domain registries. One is called .crypto and another is called .zil. So these domain names are stored by you as the user. No one can take them away from you, not even Unstoppable Domains. And so at unstoppabledomains.com, you can buy and manage domains, and then you can also launch decentralized websites, websites that only you can put up or take down. So we've been doing this for about 18 months. Domain names work inside of a couple of dozen cryptocurrency wallets, including some of the biggest ones like Coinbase and others. And then on the website side, you can go and check out .crypto websites inside of Opera browser for Android, and hopefully many more browsers soon. Well,
congratulations on the Opera integration. But most of all, Bradley also come from a very particular entrepreneurial background with Talkable, and now being the CRO, thinking about from the domain space. I just love your T-shirt. That's a decentralized, first of all. Right?
Decentralize everything.
It really has to be up in front of everything. I've been wearing this blue T-shirt for 2 years now for a reason. I think it really is almost out of two. But last of all, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Stephen, and everyone else on the panel. Good to be here. My name is Joseph Weinberg. I'm the co-founder of Shyft Network. We spent the last few years working on an identity protocol and really looking at how you solve compliance-related requirements to really maintain decentralization and not start to kind of change the way the ecosystem functions. So we've been working with governments and many non-governmental organizations, such as the OECD and the Financial Action Task Force. I'm working on compliance with some of the largest exchanges in the space today, governments and a whole variety of kind of suites of products on the identity side and a few more. So good to be here with everyone.
That's so exciting. 3 years into the story that you really think about decentralized identity upfront. Most of all, Joseph and I actually went to the same college in Canada, a small college, Simon Fraser, that is great that almost that's how many of our friends and past colleagues reconnect in crypto again. But I would stop talking about just your bio. I specifically pick a common blog post that not the latest, but I thought it would be generating some conversation, whether related to your project, but the topic of like this panel, hopefully just so that we are not just like talking about ourselves, our project or your product, but at least have some maybe controversial or like point of view that you would like to put out, right? Hopefully it's really conversational. The worst, I've been to so many panels myself too, is everyone just talk and announcing and broadcasting without really learning a little bit the chance that we are so fortunate to have 30 minutes together. So the blog post that I put out is called Every Startup is a FinTech Company by Dixon. And I read it many times and I even put it on a roadmap. I thought the whole idea of unbundling of Wells Fargo's is so visual way of reminding us a long way to go. Honestly, 10 years ago when I did my first startup, unbundling Craigslist is everyone VC and all the founders talk about. Maybe any of the speaker here can use that topic or the blog post, some of the content or whatever that you want to relate to it. Maybe we don't need to go in particular order. Maybe Brett can go first, because just so that we randomize the order a little bit.
And sorry, just to make sure I'm clear, this should tie back to identity or?
Up to you. So the blog post said, I don't know whether you read it, it's by Andreessen, that said, every startup in the future, they even make a stronger claim, all the coming unicorns, whether you purposefully position yourself a fintech company, or many of them will turn into a fintech company, how it tied back to crypto, how it tied back to your mission, you can open up any topic.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think I definitely agree. I mean, I think the thing that is one of the things that crypto is leading the charge in is making it so every application can have a wallet. That's become, an easy feature now because of crypto. So I think we're seeing that all across the board. Like, for example, we're seeing wallets turning into browsers, like various crypto wallets that have dApp browsers, and then browsers turning into wallets, like Opera Browser and Brave Browser and others integrating wallets. So we're seeing this kind of convergence, and I think it's just so easy now to add financial infrastructure into your app. So why would you not want that? Why would you want your users to have to go somewhere else or use some other system? So I think it's more like a sign of how broken the system has been that you haven't been able to do that with the current internet, because of course people have wanted payments forever. As these new social media giants came out of China, of course they integrated payment tech off the bat, very early on, because that's what users want. It's only because the applications that we use here are delivering so poorly on what users want and evolving so slowly that it hasn't already taken over. But I mean, I think this is just across the board for crypto, but how it links into our product, a blockchain domain is your payment endpoint. It's like your decentralized Venmo, but it's also your website. So I've got brad.crypto. You can go to my website and see my blog, but you can also send me money to brad.crypto in Bitcoin or Ethereum or other currencies. No need for tips. No
it's really true. The first thing is the names, and the money is the end of it. Whoever want to go ahead. Yeah.
I think that one of the things on
ahead.
this is that you talked about it as unbundling. That's what the host talked about it as too. I think about it more in like the notion of standards, like the idea of what the web was developed on, which is the standards and the ability to interoperate, allows that sort of different layers and being able to select which layers that you want, which is exactly the issue, certainly for us when we talk about payments. And you think about like, you have this infrastructure, we're not going to get rid of the existing infrastructure for lots of reasons. It just takes a long time to be able to replace that, even from a software standpoint, to get folks used to new things. But if you just make those rails interoperable with the existing infrastructure, it's a bit like unbundling, but it's just using those standards to be able to interoperate with lots of different functions out there. So we see this in payments, but you can see it in digital identity. You can see it in even like from the content standpoint. There's just so much opportunity when you think about it in this decentralized network idea. The ideas that the internet were all founded on, that we've sort of moved away from and created the full stack instead of looking at it as different layers of the stack.
Yeah, for Denelle coming from Mozilla after 8 years, but also having a JD of her own, I'm very excited. I was just reading some of your LinkedIn that's coming from Hastings College of Law. That's where our VP president is going to be part of the story. Maybe Meltem can add some other perspective.
Yeah, so I was just going to jump in. I think one of the real exciting things we're doing here is historically the relationship you've had with your identity and with money is your government issues that you an identity. 25% of the world's population doesn't have a government issued ID. You then take that government issued identity and you go to a financial institution, and the financial institution gives you a bank account and a bank account number and a credit card and a credit card number. But those identifiers, those account numbers belong to the bank. You can't take your account and your assets with you to another bank very easily, which is why banking is such a sticky industry. On average, in any given year, only 4% of users of banks will move their assets to another bank. So banks have never actually had to compete for users because they own your account number. And so what crypto does that's always been so exciting to me is a blockchain wallet address. That's a bank account. Those are assets that can travel with you wherever you want to go. So for the first time, because we separated identity from government and we've separated your bank account or your financial assets from a financial intermediary that custodies them and owns your bank account number and gives you an IOU, you can now shop for service providers that give you the experience you want. And I think that's just a fundamentally transformative relationship that completely inverts the relationship we have with service providers. More importantly, though, I think what's really exciting is in this new digital world, I can have a lot of different identities. You mentioned my Twitter, right? I'm one person on Twitter. I'm one person in my day-to-day life. Professor Meltem is another person. And I may have, 10 or 20 different internet avatars. And for the first time, all of those entities can have financial identities. They can have web table addresses with Unstoppable. They can have financial accounts. They can be separate. They can be linked together. And I think more and more as people start to live their lives in these different metaverses or these different slices of our objective reality, we have this new capability to really meet people where they're interacting and transacting. And by the way, social media is leading the charge. I don't know who saw the news today, but ByteDance is looking at starting to offer financial services to people, ByteDance being the company that owns TikTok. So it's happening, and I think social media is going to be the gateway drug that completely inverts the relationship people have with their financial service providers. So I'm very excited, and I think crypto is 100% going to lead the way. And everyone on this call today, I've been on a Zoom with in the last few months, so like we're all doing it, and we're all doing it together, and it's amazing. I'm super excited.
That's really true. I love how Meltem keep talking about users and people's choices, but also coming from Meltem's background and 4 years in World Economic Forum, that many of this identity have to be redesigned now that is really cross-border. Many countries' regulation need to work together, and the infrastructure they need to work together. Joseph?
Yeah, no, I'd kind of like amalgamate everything that everyone said and completely agree. And like this comes down to how we define value, right? It's a question of, can we conceptualize value in one level, but can we actually, mathematically, enable value in new ways? And that's really what our ecosystem, provides. And I think through that, it's really the question of trust, right? So now we have systems that can provide trust, that allows us to provide an incredible, new set of services that just weren't possible. And trust is probably the key consideration in everything. And it comes a lot into the regulatory side as well, of course. And we've been working on trying to, at the very least, ensure that decentralization and openness and the ability to openly innovate isn't dampened by the requirements for regulation. Bitcoin doesn't care about regulation. It doesn't care what anyone thinks. The problem is we are people, and we are still bound by the countries that we sit in. And that's the reality that we think we have to face. And so there's, this constant tug of war between, the ability to maintain that openness and the ability to maintain that, and at the same time, give the baseline requirements for what governments require, what regulations are needed. And I think the really most interesting thing that we're at least focused on is, can we build systems that maintain that openness and decentralization, but also require this counterparty accountability. And I do think that that'll probably be the next biggest leap that the ecosystem takes, and kind of this maturity that I think we're all starting to see. News in the last few weeks has been very clear that things are becoming more front and center across governments around the world. And I think the ability for our ecosystem to provide innovations and really build things that are new and speak to the level in which our ecosystem is based on and built off in these primitives really provides a new type of financial system. Regulations, and laws and rules are somewhat a part of financial systems. And so if we can maintain that, I think that the next really big jump in adoption and everything really starts to kick in very, very quickly at that point. So that's our, yeah.
Wow, I thank you, Joseph, for saying the math. He also said primitives and decentralized. Remembering that is so key, right? That many of these primitives really allow the revolution that we see under us. I can't believe we only have 9 minutes left. I actually prepared so many of your tweets, not just the one tweet I sent you guys that I thought would be a great topic. But maybe we'll start with Danielle talking about Stellar Foundation, Development Foundation, that have like hundreds of $millions to think about how payment innovation can be completely different. Just bringing the Abra Global to your ecosystem recently. Maybe you can tell us more about it.
Yeah, so thank you. From the way that we look at this is that as I said, we shepherd the code base for the Stellar Network, but we feel it's also our responsibility to talk about things like Joseph just talked about from a regulatory standpoint, and to meet with regulators. And the whole security adage from way back when, trust but verify, you have to allow that openness, that decentralization, to be able to get that trust, and then to allow others to verify that it's actually happening. So what we want to do, and what we started the Enterprise Fund, we did that, we launched it last November, and the Enterprise Fund is really focused on our ecosystem, and building an ecosystem that is vibrant, that is able to, using the innovation and the creativity of all of those awesome people that are out there that are trying to develop these new ideas, and focusing on the user, to be able to get the user not using blockchain for the sake of blockchain, but blockchain to solve problems for them. For the users. And so the Enterprise Fund is focused on this exact type of thing, to focus on investments in these areas so that we can help build and make the Stellar ecosystem even more vibrant than it is today. So it's just one way that we can do that. We also think it's important for us to connect the folks within the ecosystem. So when you have one player over here, for example, we have the corridor between Nigeria, and the corridor between Nigeria and Europe is really, it's open and active, and there's a lot of volume on Stellar in that corridor, and that's because we've connected these two anchors that are in that region, and then you have these folks that the anchors have business relationships with, and you now see payments going in between Nigeria and the EU, Nigeria and the US, Nigeria and other anchors in Latin America. And it's all about us bringing the ecosystem together. So we really take seriously not just this notion of investment, but also the notion of us trying to help create that flywheel, those network effects that you really need when you're building an ecosystem and you're building it with nascent technology.
Yeah, congratulations. I've seen some of your hackathon results. Just really amazing how the space has matured. And having my common friend, Andre Lowe, really buy into the mission of helping many of the cross-border payment is just only starting. I don't know who want to go next. We only have 6 minutes. Maybe Bradley at least can say about how amazing to integrate with IPFS as well as the Opera browser.
Sure. So I think the thing that has been the most maybe surprising and optimistic note for me over the past year and a half has been how interested browsers are about crypto. And now I'm of course super interested in getting Denelle's opinion, having had a seat at one of the key tables here. But what I've been seeing is just a lot of interest coming from a lot of different browser companies about adding crypto wallets in particular, and maybe some of these other DeFi tools as well. And it all comes back to they haven't had a way to add payment infrastructure into their applications. It's been completely missing from all of these different internet applications for decades. Even though it's of course I think a no-brainer from a user perspective. So now all of a sudden this is possible. That's very exciting to them. So what we found is that excitement about adding financial infrastructure has kind of created this path for us. And then the path for us is well, you should also be supporting decentralized websites, and domain names are stored in wallets. So it's very natural. It all just kind of fits together naturally. You would store your money inside of your wallet, which is part of your browser. You would also be able to have your domain name there. You would also be able to use it and sign transactions and do things very naturally. So it's just, just for anybody using dApps, I mean, it's very handy to have the wallet baked in like that.
Yeah.
So
I'll say really that's the only way to get to the 10 million, 100 million users. And browser have done it, right? Never mind Mozilla of hundreds of million users, whether Opera and many of the mobile browsers are still a long way. We only have a few minutes left. Maybe Meltem wants to go first. Still with us, Meltem? If not, Josie will jump ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can jump in. Yeah, I mean, no, I think like all of this, like, I think the next, 3 to 6 months is a really interesting one. And I completely agree with everyone's been saying. And I think we're kind of starting to see these inroads across, traditional institutional, finance or the old world and this new world. And I think that's where it's becoming exciting. And I mean, I think the DeFi space is showing a lot of, the ability to flex, in entirely new ways that I think, 2018 people were questioning whether, what the future of the space was, at least in the outside. And so I think that, provided we can get a few more primitives embedded into those types of applications and really just, continue to allow the ecosystem to provide some of that really critical infrastructure that, the next year to 2 years, we're in a world where negative interest rates are a reality, where the systems around us are being put to the test, let's say, and so the ability to provide a lot of these financial instruments to a broader audience is really, really critical. And so provided that we can check off some of the institutional check marks, I think that we're almost there. So Meltem, jump in.
I want to disagree with you actually. One point I disagree on is I think a lot of people in the crypto space are waiting on institutions to come around and adopt crypto. And I actually think that crypto is going to change what it means to be an institution, and it already has. This has always been, and in my view, for the next few years, will continue to be a retail-driven, bottoms-up movement. And what it means to be a bank is changing. Bradley, what it means to be an internet service provider, you guys are changing it. You're changing what it means. You're changing the definition. You're changing the relationship companies have with their customers. So I think what we're doing is we're fundamentally changing the way that institutions in our world function. And what that means is like, it's up to us to define the future. So what I think is so exciting is we're completely operating in this space where, instead of asking for permission, instead of waiting, people in the industry are now going and doing, and the businesses that are going to be successful are not the businesses that are trying to pander to Goldman Sachs or, name your favorite financial services institution here. It's people who see problems and are solving them using these tools we have, because what we're doing is we're building global open source networks that anyone can participate in. And yes, there may be regulation, but guess what? Your physical jurisdiction no longer defines the regulatory perimeter in which you operate. It's ridiculous. Like if I have a Bitcoin wallet, the Bitcoin network doesn't care if I'm in Somalia or in the US or wherever I am. My service providers may, but the Bitcoin network sure as shit doesn't. So I just think the reality is institutions are going to adapt to this new world. And I'm very excited to continue to push in that direction. Instead of trying to shove crypto into banks, I want banks to adapt to accommodate this fundamentally new world, because crypto is happening. It's here, it's now, not going back. And when it does finally reach that sort of scale, which I think we're getting to, it's going to blow people's minds. So again, I just can't share how excited I am. Hopefully my enthusiasm is coming through without my face, because I'm waving in the air like a maniac over here.
Yeah, absolutely is. I wish you had a little bit more time to even talk about the Shuttle One project. That the innovation in Southeast Asia is really happening. All the open, we talk about against
so cool.
institution, but the government is really jumping on as well. Maybe just under, we only have 10 seconds. Go.
Yeah, Shuttle One, amazing company, peer-to-peer finance, Southeast Asia, supported by the Singapore government, working with a bunch of different government agencies, using DAI and USDC, but actively looking at other protocols. I have introduced them to the Stellar Foundation, Denelle, just so you know. Really exciting, and I think, again, fundamentally transformative to see companies being able to address peer-to-peer banking needs using blockchain technology and stable coins as opposed to using the correspondent banking system.
I think that's all we got. I'm very glad that we finished it strong. I don't know whether they cut us off or let us hang out a little bit more. I was just very glad that I really got to know some of your background, whether Mozilla or MIT. Joseph actually went to Amazon. I also spent 2 weeks there. That Amazon Forest is still where it started. Bradley, if you know our roadmap, I really wanted to build a domain services to take over all the top registry just as much myself.